On the 30th of June 2020, China imposed the Hong Kong National Security Law amid a sweeping crackdown after pro-democracy protests engulfed the city. Legislation grants Beijing permission to criminalize subversion, secession, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces. The law made it easier for mainland China to prosecute protesters and reduced Hong Kong's autonomy. The pro-democracy protests began in 2019. The United States of America passed the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act in November 2019 in response to the protest movement, which was a list of sanctions and trade restrictions on Hong Kong. On the 29th of May 2020, Donald Trump, who was the president at the time, ordered an end to Hong Kong's special status under U.S. law. His executive order rescinded the privileges that the former British colony had been granted in the areas of national security, foreign policy, trade, and economics.
The ramifications are many. Many Hong Kongers fear that their city's progressive identity has been crushed.
Two years later, all eyes are on China's next target. Is Taiwan next? And can the Republic of China rely on its biggest ally, the United States?
So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Yes.
So strength, goodwill, and again, the demonstration of a democracy that has evolved to a stronger place now and offers a very strong contrast to what's happening on mainland China. No more evidence needed than what happened in Hong Kong.
我想法没有很多啦，可是我没有办法接受统一啊。对啊，我觉得，对啊，因为看到香港这样子，应该也没办法。身为台湾的人民，应该也没办法接受吧。
大家都看出来，中国答应香港人民的，已经被世界看穿，被香港人民唾弃。 我们也更可以知道，我们一定要坚守台湾的主权、自由、民主。中国的所谓“一国两制”根本不堪检验。
面对持续且刻意升高的军事威胁，台湾不会退缩，会
会坚定维护国家主权，坚守民主的防线，同时也希望和全世界民主国家团结合作，共同维护民主的价值。
实现中国统一是不可阻挡的历史大势，是中国人民坚不可摧的共同意志。中方再次敦促美方恪守一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报规定，慎重妥善处理涉台问题，停止在虚化、掏空、歪曲一个中国原则的错误道路上越走越远，以免对中美关系和台海和平稳定造成进一步损害。
The tank traps on the beaches of Kinmen Island are a stark reminder that Taiwan lives under the constant threat of a Chinese invasion. To understand the Taiwan-China conflict, one needs to revisit the past.
The deep rift between these two regions dates back to China's civil war that began in 1927 between nationalists and communists. At that time, China was ruled by the nationalist Kuomintang of the Chinese National Party, led by Chiang Kai-shek, a revolutionary military leader. Chiang took over as leader of the country in 1928. He finally lost the war to Mao Zedong's communist forces in 1949 and fled to Taiwan, where he set up a separate government. It is important to know that Taiwan was under full control of China in the 17th century, when the Qing dynasty began administering it. But in 1895, they lost the island to Japan after losing the First Sino-Japanese War. The ROC government began exercising jurisdiction over Taiwan only after Japan's surrender in the Second World War. Taiwan has been governed independently of China since 1949. Unlike China, Taiwan is a democracy. While China claims Taiwan as its territory, many Taiwanese see their island as a separate nation. It has a democratically elected government and its own currency and political and judicial systems. Last year, it rolled out a newly redesigned passport. As you can see, the new passport gives greater prominence to the island's day-to-day name, Taiwan, and removes the large English words Republic of China. Despite its attempts to establish its own unique identity, Taiwan has never declared independence from mainland China and is not recognized by the United Nations. The People's Republic of China may not control the Republic of China, but it claims it as part of its territory under the One China principle. It has never ruled out using force to take it back, especially if it declares independence. Relations between Taiwan and China have been deteriorating sharply.
On the 2nd of August at 10:45 p.m. in Taiwan, a U.S. Air Force transport plane landed at Taipei's Songshan Airport. The historic visit of U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defied a string of warnings and threats from China. Pelosi, second in line to the presidency, is the highest-profile elected U.S. official to visit Taiwan in 25 years. Beijing made it clear that it regards her visit as a major provocation. It ignited a diplomatic firestorm. The last visit to Taiwan by a U.S. speaker was in April 1997 by Republican politician Newt Gingrich. Pelosi was on a tour of Asia. She visited Singapore and Malaysia before making a stop at Taipei. It was not in Pelosi's public itinerary.
We come in friendship. We thank you for your leadership. We want the world to recognize that. In our visits on congressional delegations, we have three purposes. One is security for our people, global security. Two is economics, to spread as much prosperity as possible. And three is governance.
恭请总统授勋。
President Tsai will now confer the Order of Propitious Clouds with Special Grand Cordon upon Speaker Pelosi.
The 82-year-old lawmaker said that her delegation had come to Taiwan in peace for the region.
We are supporters of the status quo and the rest. We don't want anything to happen to Taiwan by force.
While Pelosi's visit was not a first by a U.S. House Speaker, as expected, it ignited a belligerent response from the Chinese side. Beijing warned against the egregious political impact of Pelosi's. A day after the visit of the United States House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the People's Liberation Army began unprecedented 4-day live-fire exercises. It encircled Taiwan from the 4th to the 7th of August.
将伫8月初4 12點至8月初7的12點，離台灣周邊海域進行軍事的演習。
The exercises marked the first firing of conventional missiles over the island of Taiwan. Dozens of Chinese aircraft and warships also briefly crossed the median line of the Taiwan Strait. China also carried out a barrage of military drills in the Yellow and Bohai Seas between China and the Korean Peninsula. Taiwan's Ministry of National Defense said the drills were likely a possible simulated attack on Taiwan. But Beijing's intimidation does not appear to be working. Pelosi's visit was followed around a week later by 5 other U.S. lawmakers, and according to reports, another group of U.S. lawmakers are headed to Taiwan, defying pressure from Beijing. This leads us to our next question. The United States does not have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, so why does it matter so much? The U.S. considers China as its main trade rival. Taiwan dominates the semiconductor industry, providing 65% of the world's electronic chips used in gadgets from smartphones to cars to satellites. In a move to prevent China from gaining dominance over the strategic sector, the U.S. has proposed forging a semiconductor industry alliance with Taiwan, South Korea, and Japan. According to the International Trade Administration, in 2021, Taiwan was the United States' 8th largest goods trading partner, outranking markets such as India and Vietnam with $113.9 billion in two-way goods trade. Apart from trade association with Taiwan, Washington, D.C. also wants to counter Beijing's increasingly assertive actions in the East Asia region. Remember last year, the US, Australia and the United Kingdom announced a new trilateral security alliance, AUKUS, in an apparent attempt to counter China's growth in the Asia-Pacific region. The United States is considering options for a sanctions package against China to deter it from invading Taiwan. Washington has ramped up discussions about it, and the European Union is coming under diplomatic pressure from Taipei to do the same. The United States has also warned China that the sanctions it coordinated against Russia over Ukraine could serve as a warning. In a new bid to boost the island's defenses earlier in September, the United States announced a new $1.1 billion arms package for Taipei. The package includes an early radar warning system to help Taiwan in tracking incoming missiles, and up to 60 advanced Harpoon missiles, which are capable of sinking incoming ships. The Chinese embassy in Washington called on the US to revoke the deal or face countermeasures. And now, for the first time, the US president in an interview openly admitted that it will defend Taiwan if China stages unprecedented attack on the island.
What should Chinese President Xi know about your commitment to Taiwan?
We agree with what we signed on to a long time ago. And that there's a one China policy, that Taiwan makes their own judgments about their independence. We are not moving, we're not encouraging them being independent. That's their decision.
Would U.S. forces defend the island?
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women, would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion?
Yes.
The statement left China fuming. But on the 21st of September, China toned down its rhetoric on Taiwan, saying it is inevitable that the self-governing island will come under its control and that it would promote efforts to achieve that peacefully.
我们愿意继续以最大的诚意，尽最大的努力来争取和平统一的前景。同时我们也必须把话讲清楚。 我们捍卫国家主权和领土完整的这个决心和意志坚定不移，绝不允许任何人、任何势力侵犯和分裂祖国的神圣领土。那么，如果台独分裂势力或外部势力挑衅、逼迫，甚至突破红线，我们将不得不采取断然措施。
The comments came one day after US and Canadian warships sailed through the Taiwan Strait. Taiwan Strait is an unofficial buffer separating Taiwan and China. China called the transit of the warships provocative. War clouds appear to be gathering. Warships are playing cat and mouse on the high seas. On the 1st of August, China released this video. It marked the 95th anniversary of the founding of the People's Liberation Army, or PLA, and ends with the slogan, "Bury all the enemies that dare to invade, forging ahead towards successive victory." And this is the reason why Taiwan has denounced China's peaceful reunification pledge. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council said the island's future was up to its 23 million people to decide, and that it would allow no meddling by China. But just how strong is Taiwan's military compared to China, and will the US intervene militarily if needed? China has an enormous defense budget of $230 billion. It has the world's largest military, as per 2019 figures. There are 2 million active soldiers in the Chinese military. Taiwan has 0.17 million soldiers. China completely outguns Taiwan on the ground, in the air and at sea. But can its economy afford a war with its neighbor? Overall, China is Taiwan's most important trading partner. More than 42% of Taiwan's exports go to China, whereas Taiwan gets around 22% of its imports from China. In 2020, goods and services worth $166 billion were exchanged between the two countries. Taiwan is also among the top investors on the mainland. If an out-and-out war breaks out, it may cut off China's access to semiconductors and Western technology. Chinese firms may end up facing harsh sanctions. Beijing could also compromise trade with its biggest markets, the United States and Europe. At the 77th United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York, American President Joe Biden said that Washington does not seek conflict with Beijing, but he also added that the US will be promoting the vision of a free, open, secure, and prosperous world. What will be Xi's next step, and just how far will the US go to defend Taiwan?